Hello, everyone. Welcome to another Friday night feature here on Wrestling Royalty and on Gimme a Ho. Yeah, we are streaming live on both channels tonight. I hope you're well, and we are going to be talking tonight about every single WWE champion that currently holds a belt, a gold belt, a title, whatever you want to kind of call it. We are going to be grading each and every single one of them. We're going to have a bit of a chat. We'll go through how they won the title, what they've been doing, what their performance is doing. But I also want you to let me know your thoughts on each champion as we go through them. So we're going to be covering all the mid titles, the tag team titles, the NXT titles, and the world titles as well. So we're going to be doing this fairly quickly. We're going to be going through. It's just myself tonight. Sam was away on holiday. He is enjoying himself down, probably I think it's down south somewhere. And the rest of the boys are all busy as well. But we are going to be kicking off things. We're going to be going through the mid titles to start with. But I want to know, how's your week's been, guys? I know we were away last weekend. It's been a very busy time for myself, doing a lot of running. So if you want to check out any of that content, there's loads of videos going live over on Rollercoaster of Running. But tonight we're going to be talking about wrestling. We are back again for a Friday night feature, and there's a lot of moving parts going on in WWE at the moment, and the titles all seem to have kind of been changing hands, and that was after a period of where a lot of the titles weren't moving hands. So we're going to go through a little bit, and we're going to go through. And Mark, our moderator, is in. He's already kind of thrown some speculation out there. He says he's 99% sure we're going to get some women's mid-card titles, which would make this an even longer stream than it is already. So that'd be an interesting one. Maybe it's very topical if it happens anytime soon. I don't have any inside information. It's not the reason why I'm doing it or anything. We've also got Dean, my good friend Dean from Scenescape Shop, is in. He's very happy it's Friday by the sounds of it as well. And he says, LA Knight, yeah. So yeah, we've got him in as well. And Dean says, I'm so happy to get to Friday. Been working hard. Gonna watch SmackDown live tonight as my treat. So he's keeping himself awake to see what's going on SmackDown. That's an interesting. What are you looking forward to on SmackDown? I know LA Knight's got a match tonight against Andrade for the US Championship. So where better to start? We're going to be talking about each and every one, but where better to start than the mid-card titles and LA Knight himself? So the way this is going to work, I'm just going to kind of go through a couple of facts and details about each person in terms of what we're looking at, what we're dealing with. So LA Knight won the US Championship back at SummerSlam last month in August, and he beat Logan Paul for that in what would a lot of people would say was a very overdue win for his first individual WWE Championship, and I think it's a good place to start for him winning the US Championship. It's one of those kind of mid-card belts, but there's a lot more substance behind them these days under the current creative guise of WWE and Triple H, and he's already defended a couple of times. He defended in Germany against Ludwig Kaiser, which is one of those kind of big pop moments for the local home crowd for Ludwig. He's also he defended against Santos Escobar, and as I said earlier on, he's got a defense tonight against Andrade. So it's a very early one, really, this. So the way I'm going to do it is I'll grade it in terms of A, B, C, the way you used to get it at school. I think that's all changed these days. I think GCSEs or whatever they're called is very different. But we're going to stick to the old school style of grading. So for LA Knight, I am going to grade LA Knight's current run with the US Championship as a solid B. Just a B. No B minus, no B plus. I'm going to say a B. And that's more because he's not had it too long. But what he has done is managed to kind of get it back regularly onto TV. Logan Paul was very good in terms of boosting the brand and having that belt on his podcast and things like that and getting out there to the mainstream audience. But in terms of getting it back on regular TV and back in the kind of like SmackDown, because they need that belt to kind of circulate with Cody's belt as well. And we'll go into Cody's reign as we go on. But I think already having an open challenge for it and beating Santos and having the match against Andrade, it's good to have the US Championship defended live and kind of having that presence as well back on TV. So I certainly think it's a B from me. Let me know, what do you think of LA Knight so far as US champion? Dean reckons Rock's going to show up, so that's why he's watching live on SmackDown. I see you. Let's see. He needs a feud, same as Cody. Yeah, I would agree. I think LA Knight's next kind of progression with the belt, he needs now a good storyline to get into. You can kind of have these one-off matches, but now you need to have someone to kind of feud with it for, and someone who's kind of making it their sole mission to get that belt off of him. He then needs to dig his heels in and to be a face champion, which is always quite difficult, I think, as well. So B for me. Moving on to the next mid-card title, we've got Bron Breakker, who again won it the same night, SummerSlam. SummerSlam actually, it changed a lot in the sense of the landscape of the titles in WWE, and we'll go through some of the dates and things. But there's not many long-term title holders. In fact, not a single person holding a belt in WWE right now has had it outside of 2024. Every single one won it in 2024. So very strange, because before that we had the long reigns of Roman Reigns and Bianca Belair and Rhea Ripley all had the belt for a long time. But now we're in these kind of like shorter era, or people are just starting to build their own. So yeah, it's quite an interesting little stat to throw out there that every single title at the moment has been won in 2024. Let me know what you think about that. Bron Breakker, let's say, won against Sami Zayn at SummerSlam. And this is, again, his first main roster title. Obviously, held a few different belts down in NXT. And again, very early to kind of say, to give him a fair judgment on his title reign so far. So for me, again, I'd probably put him in similar, but maybe a B- on this one, because he's not really had too much of a chance to build in terms of any feud. He obviously got locked in with Sami Zayn very quickly. But for me, like, his star is rising. And I think putting a belt on him really shows how much stock WWE's got in him at the moment. But I expect this rivalry with Jey Uso to really kind of kickstart his next phase. Is like, how can he establish himself? Which is interesting, because I also think Jey Uso really at this point of his career needs to have a run with an individual belt if you're going to push him. They keep calling him main event Jey Uso. He's so popular. You see, like, all, the sunglasses are selling, the t-shirts are selling, people do his catchphrase, people do his yeet motion. So he's got all the kind of aspects, but now it's kind of do or die. He's got to win that belt. But is this the way that we get sucked back into, or Jey Uso gets sucked back into the Bloodline storyline? Obviously, that will happen at some point, but let's see what happens on Monday. I expect that will kind of roll on. I think there'll be some sort of screwy finish, and I think that will continue. Obviously, Jey Uso's kind of involved a little bit with the Judgment Day breakup, in sense of he's involved himself in that with Rhea. And I think that'll come back to bite him a little bit. So it'll be interesting to see if they then continue it on. And also, there was these kind of cryptic messages that Rikishi put out about Jimmy, but I hope everything's okay with Jimmy Uso. He's been missing for a long time, so hopefully it's nothing too serious. And we've had confirmation that it's not a health issue, or that's the kind of the whisperings that are coming out. But I think the Intercontinental Championship, it's a great point for it to have this rivalry between Jey and Bron Breakker. So really interested to see where they go with this. Dean says the same. Glad they're going to feud him with Jey. I actually thought it was the first time when they've kind of like squared off together, and I really enjoyed seeing those two, like how they interacted. I thought for the first time, possibly since he was in the tag team, the delivery of Jay's promo was spot on Monday. He, like him going in on a failed NFL career and saying he's going to dog walk him and things like that. It was good to see Jay get a little bit of bite, no pun intended, into Bron Breakker. Jay confidence is hit recently. You can see he's dipping. They need to keep pushing him. Yeah, exactly that. It's good to have title shots. It's good to have main event matches. But if you ain't winning them, it's going to harm you in the long run. So we just need that next little bit there. KK416 said Rikishi said Jay should go to AEW due to the lack of treatment in WWE. Yeah, he did say something like along that lines. I think it was more, if WWE aren't going to give him the shine or the rub, then maybe he gets his rub elsewhere like AEW. I think it's more of a Rikishi's just trying to stick up for his son and try and get him some opportunities. But hey, I think you've got to trust what WWE and the creative teams are doing at the moment. They've been doing a lot better recently, but this is where it kind of becomes only a certain amount of people can hold the championship. And right now, it's Bron Breakker's time. as well. Whether that changes hands this quickly, we'll find out on Monday. We're going to move on and rapidly go through NXT because there's 5 titles, as you can see here, for NXT, which is the women's. You've got the men's main championship, you've got the tag team championship, North American, and the women's North American. So this might be something that a lot of people are following, but we'll rush through them. So we've got what's kind of been dubbed as Fraxium, which is Nathan Fraser and Axiom, who are now in their 2nd title reign. And this is the one that's changed hands very recently at No Mercy, again last month. This is their 2nd reign, and beat Chase U for this reign. Their first one actually lasted 126 days, so not to be sniffed at. They had it for a little while, and this is one that was kind of thrown together, their tag team. But the match that they had against Chase U at No Mercy, I thought was one of the matches of the night. These are 2 guys who, to be honest, if you're looking at bolstering the tag team division on the main roster, these are guys you want to watch. If you aren't aware, Axiom used to be A-Kid in NXT UK and was the first Heritage Cup winner. You have Nathan Fraser as well. So Nathan Fraser is a disciple of Seth Rollins and his wrestling school. He's attended Seth Rollins' wrestling school. There's a lot of similarities, some of like the Phoenix Splash move and the way he kind of carries himself. He's like a faster Seth Rollins, or maybe how Seth Rollins used to be a couple of years ago. So they're explosive, high action, high flying. I expect these will be called up because I think with the impending signing of the Lucha Brothers, Lucha Bros from AEW, Motor City Machine Guns are coming across to NXT. I don't think they'll stay long there. I think they'll be moved it fairly quickly, but I just think they're going to potentially have this big tag team explosion on the main roster because I think it's been neglected for so long, and I think teams like DIY are also going to benefit from that in the long run as well. So yeah, it'd be really interesting to see how they do that. KK416s might have tension between them when they lose the titles, but the question is who turns on who. Again, we're going to go through a couple of the different tag teams, and one of them in particular has a similar storyline. These guys have kind of had a little bit of tension of they want to do their own single stuff as well. There's a bit of jealousy and a bit of rivalry. So I think it might be one of those ones that maybe just mutually part ways. But it could also give someone like Nathan Fraser a good character development if they made him into a heel when they eventually do. But I do think that Motor City Machine Guns, they are the likely one to take it off them. Let's face it. I think that's more than likely. But we've got, he also says Nathan does look like a young Seth. It's true, he does. If you haven't seen him, definitely go check out some of the matches. If you want a good starting point, their title win here that you can see at No Mercy just a few weeks ago. Great point to start. The NXT Women's North American Championship is held by Kalani Jordan. She's the only person who's ever held it because she's the inaugural champ. She won it in a ladder match, a multi-women ladder match. Again, you can see the background. This is at Battleground when they went to Las Vegas. They were at the UFC Apex, I think it's called, or something. Not a very good arena for this kind of thing. I think the crowd was a little bit dead on this one. But yeah, Kalani Jordan won it for the first time and has held it ever since. This is much needed because NXT has a real concentration on women's wrestling. I also just realized, by the way, if I'm going to be grading these, I would probably give these I'll go B- again. I think they're good champions, but I kind of, it's what's next is going to be what defines them, is how do they hang with that. I think they've had some good title defenses, but that's not in this title run. So it depends how you kind of do that. If you take both of them as a whole, I would put them more towards a B+ because I think they've had some great matches together, and I think they can improve. I don't see them staying like a long time together, so that's why I can kind of only put them as like a sort of B- this time. Yeah, sorry, Kalani Jordan, NXT Women's Division, absolutely thriving. It's just going to get bigger and better. You have heard some of the names that are joining there. Some of them are going to get thrown straight up into there, like Julia. I'm sure people like Jordan Grace are probably going to be joining when her contract is up. There's a couple of others that are very quickly going to be joining as well. Stephanie Vasquez, she's going to be joining probably into NXT. That whole women's division is just going to get stronger and stronger. Then you've got a lot of the kind of like the ones who've been coming up. So this belt in particular becomes key to that development side. So yes, she beat other people to get this, but then you've got the likes of Sol Ruka, who I think is another one who could happily or handily hold this title. And she just recently beat Kalani Jordan beat Wendy Chu as well, and that was at No Mercy. So she's defending the title. She's looking very strong doing it. Very athletic. Very again, I think maybe she was a gymnast before, but she's certainly got the kind of high flying stuff down as well. Yeah, KK416 says, I love Kalani in her reign, but the question is who dethrones her for it. I think that's that's the mark of a good champion, is when she's been holding it a while, she's been having great matches, and then you start to think, well, who is there that can beat her? Because she's very good. So who is going to be able to beat her? But I do feel like at some point, I think Mark might have just mentioned it, I kind of feel like TNA's got to be the one who kind of have a stake in this, because they've got some great talent they're sending over to NXT. So it wouldn't surprise me if they do kind of put her against someone who kind of comes across and have that as the first belt that's changed hands between TNA and NXT. Mark says, wouldn't be surprised if they keep their new talent from TNA and that away from the North American title and just go for the women's NXT title. Possibly. I just feel like this is such an easy one. Like, it's not going to be a major shock, but it would be kind of cool moment if this is a belt that they do change across to someone on TNA and then back again. It just gives that relationship a little bit more to it, that actually they might win a title rather than lose every single time. So I just think it's something that could be a little cool move for both sides, and it would benefit the relationship in the long run as well. TNA's thriving. They're selling loads of tickets for their live events, which is great to see. And maybe it's the NXT effect and the WWE relationship, or maybe it's just they've got some very good talent on the roster. Maybe it's both. Mark says, not going to lie, someone from TNA needs to take the men's North American title or the women's one. Well, let's talk about that, because I'd say Kalani Jordan, again, B+, because I think she's doing great things with that belt. First person to hold it's not easy because there's no one to compare you to. Again, that helps you in some respects. But Obafemi, who holds the men's North American title, he is actually the longest reigning title holder in any of WWE at the moment. So he's had the belt since January the 9th. And that was the week after he won the men's breakout tournament, and he cashed in that contract for a shot at Dragon Lee. Effectively used it like a Money in the Bank briefcase. So he has actually been holding it since the beginning of the year, and is the longest reigning in all of WWE. So he's actually been, I think this is a really interesting one, because every single time he's defended it, I've kind of expected that he was going to lose it. I don't necessarily think he's amazing, but each time he's had a title defense, I go, actually, he's better than he was the last time. And he's developed so much that you kind of think, yeah, they've done this the right way. They put a belt on a guy who looks the part. He's great in the ring. He's a big guy, but he can move so quickly as well, which you just don't see. He's getting better on the mic. I think he's had some great wins. They threw him into these kind of triple threat matches, which was maybe to make sure that, any shortcomings that he had could be addressed and hidden a little bit. But I actually thought that it was the right thing to do. The match at the Stand and Deliver that he had, I thought was probably the match of the night. I thought that was fantastic. And I think Obafemi's kind of that big guy that WWE's been searching for, who's really good. Because I know people really liked Omos as a character, but how much of that was actually tongue in cheek, that he was very good in the ring. This guy can move. This guy actually has quite high ceiling in terms of how much he can develop. And he's the kind of person that you want to stay on NXT for a lot longer, because he can kind of get rid of any shortcomings he has in the ring in the right arena for him as well. So I just think this is the right time, the right place. And he's the first person as a champion I'm going to give an A. I'm going to give an A- to, because I think he's actually been very, very good as a champion so far. And I expect him to keep going and moving on. So I definitely think A- for Obafemi, and I do agree some of the comments that are coming through. Mark says I think he needs to drop it as soon as possible. Forget the men's NXT title, just send him straight up. I think he should stick around a little bit longer, personally. Jake, hello, Jake. I saw you did say hello earlier on. Good to see you, my friend. Obafemi has been the best champ in NXT so far. Do you mean in terms of like the ones I've covered, or do you mean like this year, or whatever? Second best in WWE. That's a big statement. KK says this man is an unstoppable beast. I can't think of anyone from NXT who could dethrone him. It's got to be someone from TNA. I still can't get over the fact he's only 26. The guy that he looks like he's probably in his 30s. So, yeah, interested. Braun Strowman said he wants more big guys on the main roster because he's getting bored of the same ones over and over. Yeah, probably like he's in a great feud at the moment with Big Bronson Reed, but you know, there's a market for it, as people still enjoy those kind of like big meaty men slapping meat. You know, that's what people kind of love to see, and you know, Big E, you know, he said that for a reason. Jake Holland, Oba reminds me a lot of Keith Lee, but not quite as big. I think he's a bit more sort of rangy. He's quite tall, like, you know, a bit sort of svelte, I guess, compared to Keith Lee. Safe to say Omos will probably leave by Mania. Yes, thanks, Jake. Currently at NXT. You see Strowman's match, or lack of match. I don't think they actually started, did they? They were kind of brawling all over, and the top rope came off and stuff. So yeah, really cool. Braun versus Oba, take my money, says KK416. So yeah, A- for him. We're going to move on. Roxanne Perez, who's the current NXT Women's Champion. She actually won the belt back on April the 6th, which was Stand and Deliver the night before WrestleMania 40, where she beat Lyra Valkyria to become a two-time champion. Now, her first reign ended very abruptly. They stripped her of the title. She couldn't defend it. There was a lot kind of not really said, possible health issues that were going on at the time. But she won it back at Stand and Deliver 2024. And since then, she's actually like been holding down and like under a kind of circumstances where people have been talking about all these women that are coming in. Yeah, it's Roxanne Perez who's been holding that belt down to the point where she beat Jordan Grace from TNA, which was a huge win for her, really. She's beat Lola Vice. She beat Thea Hale, Jada Parker most recently, and now she's going to be facing Julia, who has come into NXT in the last few weeks, and I think looks absolutely spectacular. She just looks the part. I expect big things of Julia, and this is really where I guess Roxanne Perez's career is at a bit of a crossroads in terms of how they handle having a new shiny toy come into NXT. Do they like instantly put the title on Julia? And you know, this is now becomes, how does Roxanne Perez get over the fact that she, you know, was kind of beaten so quickly by someone coming in? Or do they keep the faith and go, actually, we need Roxanne Perez to be built because, you know, she's very young. She's been building her title reign. So it'd be very interesting. They made a big thing on NXT that she herself was expected to get a call up when they were doing the brand draft, and she didn't. And she was almost kind of acting like NXT wasn't good enough for her anymore. So whether they kind of continue that back in, or whether they bring Julia in and somehow she gets like a screwy win against Julia next, I think it's in 2 weeks when they are in Chicago, when they move across to the CW. That's a match I think a lot of people are waiting for. But maybe she wins it, and then maybe Stephanie Vasquez comes out, and then she has to kind of defend against her. So yeah, that would be a really cool way to see how they're going to handle Roxanne Perez. I'm going to give her like a sort of B plus, A minus, because I think she's doing great things with the belt. She's finding her character a lot more than I think she was previously. So I think she's been working as the champion a lot better than she was when she didn't have the belt. So yeah, really good one here. Got John. John's in. I love Roman, and I have to do that for you. Okay. I think Dean's talking about the match or the kind of like the brawl that we saw on Monday between Big Bronson Reed and Braun Strowman. KK says Julia has to be the one to take it off her. She's expected to lose to Julia in the CW match and send her up. Okay. She's been told to work stiff since Julia signed. So yeah, we've seen Julia's debut match. She looks very much sort of Joshi style. similar-esque to some sort of like an EO Sky, but maybe a little bit more stiff than that. And I think she's just going to kind of get better and better on NXT as well. So yeah, really interested to see how that one goes. I've probably done Ethan Page a little bit dirty here by using this as the photo to represent him. But Ethan Page very infamously came across from AEW, is currently the NXT champion, and he won it in a fatal four-way match. The era of Ego was started when he fell into a cover and Trick Williams was being held back by Sean Spears. He couldn't break up the pin in time, which led us to having Ethan Page as the current champion of NXT. He's just that kind of sniveling heel, wormy heel. He's doing a great job at it. I think a lot of people who watch AW thought that would be the case, and he's done, he's just kind of living up to the expectations people had of him when he moved across. And this is potentially the right time and place for him to kind of like show that as well. So I think the way he won the title was perfect. I think the way he's kind of acted since, he then was the perfect foil for Joe Henry to come in, because Joe Henry, is very jovial, very popular, so he can kind of play off that. But then we've got this whole, is Trick Williams going to get this back? And now we've got the CM Punk as special guest referee for their match again, when that's going to be in on the CW in Chicago. And we've got Mark there who said Page's reaction when Punk's music played was priceless. He had AEW nightmares on screen. And bro got the belt on him so quick. But as a Canadian, I love Ethan from his TNA days with Josh Alexander. Yeah, I think he got a little bit lost in the shuffle at AEW. And I think, when he kind of made it clear he wasn't going to sign a new contract, that was kind of just push him out the door a little bit. But again, I think he's in the perfect spot here. Still feels like relatively early days, but I also think a lot of his career or his championship reign is going to be defined on what happens again with Trick Williams. I think Trick Williams is going to get the title back. I think it'll be his way of earning it back. We'll see NXT really push on with Trick Williams. I still think Trick needs a little bit more work in the ring. I just think he needs to kind of keep improving. I think he's massively got an aura around him. People are very excited to see him. He's actually one of the ones who's benefited from a semi-decent theme. And I know Death Row haven't had too many of them. He has actually got a very good theme that kind of suits like the crowd getting into it and chanting along. So I don't think Ethan Page is going to hold the belt for too long, but I also think this was the perfect way to introduce him into NXT. So for that reason, B+. Let me know again, guys, if you disagree. Let me know. If you agree, let me know. But just stick your grades in for all those champions that we've been going through. Tag team title time. And again, we were saying there's just some new signs coming. So all these tag teams of title divisions are going to get boosted along the way. We're going to start, though, with the WWE Tag Team Champions, who are currently Tama Tonga and Tonga Loa of the New Bloodline. I don't think they've got like a subdivision name. I don't think they're using the ones that they have done previously. But let's not forget, it was actually Tama Tonga and Jacob Fatu who beat DIY the night before SummerSlam. And then Jacob Fatu was ordered to give the belt across to Tonga Loa, who very famously didn't really know how to hold it properly in front of the camera. So yeah, this is where we are with that. This is going to be really difficult for me because I'm such a DIY fan. I wasn't a fan of them having the belt so short and kind of cut very abruptly. So for me, I don't really see why the tag team belts have had to be put into this new bloodline. I don't think it really suits what they were going for. It kind of messes up the tag team division and their story. So I don't like the creative side of it. So for me, this is going to be the first one where I say this is a D or maybe even an F. I don't really see why they're doing this. I don't think they're defending them enough. I don't think they're putting enough into the tag team divisions on both sides. But at least the Judgment Day had a good match on Monday against New Day. I just think they need to have these belts built up by DIY, by the Street Profits. And if someone else comes in, fantastic. But there's other ones who have it. A-Town Down Under possibly should have kept hold of them for a little bit longer if this is the way that we're going to treat them. But I just think for me, this belt is getting lost in a storyline where it wasn't needed in the first place. It doesn't bring anything to Tama Tonga. It doesn't bring anything to Tongaloa. I kind of think they were maybe going for, let's put them all in gold. But if they weren't going to push that through with individual gold, what's the point? I think maybe somewhere down the line, Cody or Roman cost them the titles, and that's like a little bit more of a wrinkle into that storyline. But I can't see where else this goes. So for me, it's a D- or an F, unfortunately. KK says, when Jacob turns on Solo, maybe the belt goes back to Tongaloa, maybe. He says it was just to keep them formidable as Bloodline. Yeah, but does it though? Because it's kind of like they're okay because they've got gold, but what about the two guys that are supposed to be a bit more vicious and a bit more capable in the ring? And I just don't see that personally. But hey, if that's somewhere that's lost, it was because Solo was never going to beat Cody, so only thing they could do to keep Bloodline a threat. Good point. This is a good point. I still kind of wish they didn't have to screw over DIY in the process, but I get it. Jade Cargill and Bianca Belair are the current women's WWE tag team champions. Again, multiple tag title reigns now. They've obviously done this to try and keep Jade in the kind of title picture. Same with Bianca. They're both very capable. Jade still has a little bit of greenness to her when it comes to being in the ring, and I think they threw into this tag team to protect that somewhat. But they won the titles back August 31st at Bash in Berlin when they beat the Unholy Union. The women's tag team division is it's probably in a better state than it's been in a long time. You do have people like the Unholy Union. You do have the Kabuki Warriors when they are going, or Damage Control, who they're kind of currently locked in with. You've got people like Chelsea Green and Piper Niven. There are tag teams up and down that they can actually get involved with at the moment. So it's not the worst. And I do feel like when Jade and Bianca have the belts, it is somewhat better for them. But this all feels like it's building towards, is one of them going to eventually turn heel on the other, and they'll pull the trigger on that when they feel that Jade is ready to go onto singles. And I think personally, it's got to be Bianca who goes heel, because we've seen Bianca sort of be heelish down in NXT when she would be really cocky and kind of smack her gum and stuff when she was talking, and have a bit more of an attitude. I think Jade potentially lends herself to be more of a face, especially when crowds are still relatively getting to know her as well, which I think is the sentiment here that KK says. It'll be interesting to see when they lose the straps, who turns on who. I think Jade turn is predictable, but it would be fresh to see a heel Bianca. I think it's the better choice, because I think Bianca Belair had run her course as a face. She was almost becoming like that super Cena towards the end of her championship reign when she was the women's champion. And I just think to make her relevant and fresh again, you need to get her to be a bit more nefarious and a bit more heelish and give her something to latch onto. So because they've only had the belt, 20 days or so, I'm just going to say a C for this one, because it feels like they only ever changed the belts when they were at a European Premium Live event, and they don't really kind of shine too much on it. Although saying that, I thought Bianca and Io Sky had a fantastic match on Monday. So I firmly think Io Sky and Kai will get the belts when Kairi's signed off after her eye injury, which looked really nasty, by the way. So hopefully that recovers really quickly, and they can go back to having Damage Control all together again as soon as everyone's fit and healthy, because I think Io Sky is wonderful in the ring. Last tag team we're going to go through is the Judgment Day, or Street Trash, as they were all wearing the t-shirts on Monday. Currently, I think they're not defending it under any kind of Freebird rule or anything. It is Finn Balor and JD McDonough who are the tag team champions. So they beat the Awesome Truth back on June 24th after they were kind of maneuvered into that position by Liv Morgan, and they won the titles. I think they're doing a pretty decent job. Obviously, these titles are very much wrapped up in the split of Judgment Day, in the sense of they haven't been defended loads, but they had a great match on Monday against New Day, and that played really nicely into the New Day, having a bit of friction between them as well. So I enjoyed that because I've loved New Day for a long time, and seeing them closer to the titles was really cool. But I just wonder how long they can actually keep these titles. So again, similar to the Bloodline, I'd be a bit of a hypocrite if I didn't say I do feel like it's wrapped up in a storyline where they don't necessarily need them, because at Bad Blood, we're going to get Finn Balor versus Damian Priest, but the tag team titles are nowhere to be seen. Again, there's too many times the tag team belts are being missed off of premium live event cards, and I just feel like you need to start showcasing them. They can't just wait for new signs to come in. They need to put a little bit of respect on the tag team division again. So for me, let's see it someone represent on the tag teams. I think Raw is maybe missing more tag teams than SmackDown is, but maybe it's just because it's been kind of locked down for quite a while here. Whether it's LWO or Judgment Day, doesn't feel like there's too many teams knocking around. Dean says Judgment Day sucks, not in their heels, so they're doing their jobs way. They just suck. I'm sick of them. They have dominated TV time for a few months now, so I could see why people start to get tired of them. I think they'll have to start drawing it to a close soon, and then we see where they go off from there. John says WWE Bloodline in WWE. I don't want WWE Bloodline. I love Roman. I think you're a big Roman fan there, John. KK says when they lose the titles, I think JD eats the pin and Finn takes out on him because him getting kicked out. Could be. Yeah, it'd be interesting to see how long they keep Judgment Day together in terms of that group, whether they'll become a sort of, I don't know, unofficial Bullet Club where like it's just rotating members and they can kind of like put people in and out of it as they want. But if people like Dean are starting to get tired of it, in even just the sense of the name, whether a shake up to who's involved does anything or not, maybe they just have to kind of call it a day when they lose the titles. It'd be interesting to see how long they stick around together. Grading for these guys, B- again. I think they're doing an okay job. They're very capable in the ring. They're doing what they do, but again, they're kind of being lost in the shuffle a little bit. So B- to kind of C+. Right, quickly moving on to the world titles, and we'll go through these as quickly as we possibly can. And I've had to research to make sure I definitely get the title names right, because it's something I've struggled with when it comes, especially to the women's ones. So we look at Nia Jax, who's the current WWE Women's Champion. She won it at SummerSlam, again, a night where a lot of the belts changed hands, and she got that shot because she won the Queen of the Ring, and she beat Bayley, and that was back on August the 3rd. And again, she's kind of been tied up in this Tiffany Stratton as the Money in the Bank holder. I don't think the women's division's really getting, again, similar to the tag team division, I don't think they're getting too much time to shine at the moment. There doesn't seem to be too many options. You've had Bayley, Tiffany Stratton's involved in there as well. Don't really feel like they're bringing in too many new names. I think the only title defense that Nia's had was against Mia Yim in a street fight, and that's all that's happened so far for her. So everyone's kind of kicking their heels to see what happens when Tiffany Stratton wins the title and cashes in. But then what? Because there's still not that many people for her to kind of go up against. It'll be the same people involved again. So I think Nia Jax having the title anyway was a bit of a shock. So this one really quickly, I'd say a D. I just don't see what they're doing with her. They're kind of sticking her in these kind of comedic stuff with Pretty Deadly and Tiffany, but it's just not hitting its mark for me. Like, it doesn't do a lot for the title. Similar to Liv Morgan, she is better because she's had it longer. She's had more chance to kind of showcase it. She's locked in this thing with Rhea Ripley, but the title itself seems to have taken a backstage shine compared to the actual storyline itself. Like, let's not forget, Liv Morgan is the women's world champion. This should be the way to push that belt and make sure like everyone's kind of like, oh, okay, cool. Like, she beat Becky Lynch for it. This was her like big revenge tour. She won it back at the King and Queen the Ring in May 25th, 2024, when Rhea was out on the shelf. I just think it's just difficult to see why she didn't pick up the win in that tag match last month that they had against the Terror Twins. I just thought her and Dom would have been a better choice and showcased that she is the women's champion, that she does mean business. And I just feel like if you're going to build Liv and build that championship, you need to have a little bit more focus on it and not have it as a member of the Judgment Day holds that title. Otherwise, it means nothing. Couple of comments. Dean says Charlotte or Becky is desperately needed. I do think we need someone with a bit more gravitas and prestige to come back in. Charlotte could come back and show Nia, you might be queen of the ring, but I'm always been the queen of WWE. It's not a bad shout. Charlotte feels like she's been missing for ages. She had that bad injury, but I'm sure she'll be back sooner rather than later. Becky Lynch, not too sure. I don't know if there's any rumours on whether she signed a new contract or when she'd come back. She's just enjoying being the mum at the moment, or the mom, as they say. 2 left. Gunther is the world heavyweight champion, and he won this again. SummerSlam, a night where everything changed, apparently. So yeah, SummerSlam he beat Damian Priest. That was after being the longest reigning IC holder for 666 days. The Devil's number as well. So again, all these are fairly new champions in the grand scheme of things. So I do feel like it's hard to judge fully. Liv, by the way, I will probably give her a solid B because she's had a decent run with the belt, and I think she's also, before Rhea came back, I thought she was doing some great work in terms of having that belt around her while she was helping out with Dom and that storyline. But yeah, moving on to Gunther, I thought he's got off to a good start, a good solid start. It's exactly what I'd expect of him. I do think him just having a belt makes sense. Just him with gold around his waist or in his hand. Like, he's that kind of person that you look at and go, you are a professional wrestler. You are a very good professional wrestler. And, you know, he had that match with Damian Priest. I didn't think much of the build to it, but I do think he was the right person to have it right now. And I just think it's the case of now is he will be the champion for a long time. I think he's going to hold it for this particular belt, the World Heavyweight Champion. He could kind of hold it longer than Seth did, who's obviously the longest title holder so far. I just think he is the yardstick. He's the person that people have to beat to be the proper champion. And I don't know is the question to KK. Who can actually dethrone Gunther? Maybe Ilya. They're going to have to put some work in to build Ilya up because he's taken a lot of losses. And as Dean said, Gunther's class, great line against Brett, Ari Goldberg being his favourite wrestler. I think Gunther's improving on the mic, which he's never been bad. I just think he's getting a little bit more patter with the crowd. He's understanding a little bit more of when to talk and when not to talk. I just think, you know, the way that they're building this now with Sammy, it's the right thing to do. I think he just needs a couple of matches of dominance to show it and like kind of exercising that demon that Sammy was the one who beat him last time. That'll be the way they go with this as well. Obviously, him being very strong and denying Sammy his chance to go for it is kind of helping Sammy along. But he's certainly not the person who's going to dethrone him this time, even though he did at WrestleMania. So I'm going to say an A for Gunther. I just think what he's doing is great, and him having one of the World Championship belts, one of the top belts, just feels right. Now we come to possibly the one that's going to be a little bit contentious, because if you read Twitter, if you read social media, people are not enjoying Cody Rhodes and his championship reign so far. He is the undisputed WWE champion, beating Roman Reigns at WrestleMania, very famously WrestleMania, April 6th, one of the longer reigning champions we have at the moment. And the way they've kind of put it so far, his title reign is he's having these sort of one-off matches against people that he feels deserves it, and AJ Styles. And then he had the AJ Styles match at Backlash, but then he had the next one where he had the I Quit match. I thought that the end of that was pretty flat. And then we've also had a match with Kevin Owens. He's also got sucked back into the Bloodline storyline. Now, if you've watched him on our streams in the past, Not a fan of that either, personally. But that might just be me. The Solo Sikoa stuff, I just don't think he should be near a championship belt. I think they're doing it for that reason. It annoys people like me. But I also feel like they're doing Cody a disservice. I just think they need someone to really come in and have a fantastic feud with. The case in point, like, I thought Randy Orton going after Gunther is fine for a one-off. There was reasons why, logical reasons why. His shoulders were off the mat in that one. But for me, Cody's just not cutting it right now, and I think it's because there's no real person for him to kind of have a great storyline against. And I can see some of the comments coming through here. Jake saying, for me, Cody is the worst reign. Solo got to be the one to take off Cody to make the bloodline look stronger, says KK. Jake, Cody's an F for me, straight up. There's been no real big stories for him. I just care about him facing The Rock, which we're going to have to wait a while for. Dean says they really dropped the momentum ball with him in terms of his story and feuds and just his presence. He can't win without someone saving him. And then the Alpha Ginger Cody's reign has been so bad. The worst WWE champion since Jinder. Wow. Maybe Randy turns on Cody and takes it off them since they got history. So here's the thing, right? You can judge a championship reign on the quality of matches. You can judge it against the kind of creative, the storylines and stuff. Or you can kind of do a bit of a mix of both. Now, either way you're going to cut this, I just think you're looking at it. For me, it kind of pains me to say because I enjoyed the moment of winning it so much. I'm going to put it as a C. I can understand why people might put it lower as like an F because there's so much expectation. But if you can tell me who could have beaten Roman Reigns and then instantly gone on a legendary title reign of themselves, I would be surprised. Like, who could actually have picked up that mantle and built something so strong so quickly? The only way this works is if Cody now builds on people going, I've heard what people are saying, and they really kind of steer into it, and he starts to become a little bit more paranoid and a little bit heelish, and he starts to become the villain himself. Maybe they do it in a Homelander way, which is from the boys. That's what a lot of people are kind of expecting. So I think maybe they'll go down that route. I don't think we're going to see Rock versus Cody. I really don't. I think it's Rock versus Roman that's coming next year at Mania. I think that's what everything's building to. They need to put Cody with someone. They need him to have a good dance partner. Personally, I know we spoke about a couple of weeks ago. I want to see Cody next year go against John Cena. I want to see him maybe in a triple threat with John Cena and Randy Orton. I think the big storyline that they need to pull the trigger on when it comes to Cody Rhodes is him versus Randy Orton. I just think we need a heel to really push themselves to the top. And it needs to be someone that you absolutely hate and you get behind Cody again. It needs to be someone that you can root for Cody to be the good guy against. KK says as much, maybe Randy turns on Cody and takes it off them since they got history, but he's got to do it in a shocking way as well. I think he's got to like be like proper old school Randy Orton, spit in his face, insult his dad, do something where you hate Randy Orton again. Yeah. In a Comic-Con in Northern Ireland, Lita said she wants to see the men and women's names removed from the titles. Yeah, nah, not for me. I did hear that she was saying that, and I can kind of understand to some degree why, but I think she also said about having more like intergender matches and stuff. I don't see it personally. We need a really good heel to make us believe Cody could lose. Rock has done it on purpose, I reckon, to make us all want Rock versus Roman. So a bit of a twist from last year. It only feels like this because if Roman was champion, he wouldn't be on TV the last 5 months. That is true. Sometimes absence makes the heart grow fonder, but maybe we'll see Cody have to kind of defend against Roman this time instead. I don't think it's Cody's fault, really. I believe it's the creative's fault, says Jake. I thought Randy was going to turn on Cody before SummerSlam, but now Cody has had, 5 months and still done nothing memorable. So yeah, that's where we're at with the current champions. I'm going to leave it there. But I've really enjoyed. There's been lots of people in the comments. Let us know who your favorite champion is. Who's your least favorite champion? Not a lot of love for Cody Rhodes and his championship reign, which is very interesting. So yeah, let's see how that kind of continues. Whether people will actually start to, when Cody Rhodes gets a bit more creative or a good dance partner, maybe people will start to enjoy his title reign a little bit more. But let's give the final word to Tyson Fury's big boxing weekend this weekend. Cody's reign has been so awful. We need him to drop it, in my opinion. It seems like there's a lot of people kind of sharing that sentiment, but who do you drop it to? That's the other question, I guess. Is like, who could do a better job right now? Because you don't want to put it straight back on Roman, surely. And is there anyone who could kind of do a better job than Cody's doing? Is it just a case of the creative is kind of spinning its wheels until we get a bit of more of an idea of where we're going in the sense of Roman Rock, etc.? Lots of questions, and we'll get into them as we go along over the next few weeks on these Friday night features. So make sure you hit that subscribe button. Make sure you hit the like button. It helps us kind of boost, get these conversations going. We've had so many people in tonight. I'm going to really appreciate every single comment you've made. So thank you very much. And we're going to see you again next week. And I'll obviously post out as soon as possible in terms of what that subject's going to be. Let us know in the comments. Is there anything you'd like me to speak about? We might have Sam back next week, but make sure, as I say, you'll find out only by hitting that subscribe button on Wrestling Royalty on Gimme a Hell Yeah. I wish you all a very, very happy weekend, and stay safe. What you're doing, enjoy the wrestling, and we will see you real soon. I've been Andy. This has been Gimme a Hell Yeah. This has been Wrestling Royalty. See you later.